go. Start
The
banging.
more cancellation,
This is the first time I've had a gavel in a while.
the more makeup slated on and
All
we
right.
get to play.
Here we go. The New Jersey Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Belvidere Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having a date, time, and place thereof posted with the Star Ledger and Express Times and submitted to the town clerk of the town of Belvidere on January 16, 2022. The meeting will be live streamed at www.belvideresd.org.
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Ackerman?
Here.
Mr. Blum?
Here.
Mrs. Costantino? Dr. Zuppeth?
Here.
Mrs. Duckworth? Mrs. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Here.
Mrs. Soroka?
Here.
Mrs. Steffen?
Here.
Mr. Ty?
Here.
Mrs. Weidlich?
Here.
And Mr. Scott.
Here.
Okay. Committee reports. Curriculum, we met 2 weeks ago. Heather, you want to go over the notes?
Sure. 1 second. Barry made me start first.
You're first on the list.
Cold from being. We talked about the Math Honor Society. You have an advisor that has shown some interest. It would just just be math kids. The setup would be the same as the National Honor Society and the Spanish National Honor Society, working on a job description. 8th grade visitation. We talked about an 8th grade visitation coordinator. We did speak earlier about this, and the staff members had expressed a staff member had expressed some interest. They're going to use this year to kind of gauge and see what it will include, what they need to develop to do a stipend, and get that position then up and rolling. We talked about an athletic events supervision rates. Based on the rates in other districts, I feel that an increase is necessitated. Small increase for the security position, site manager position, clock operator, announcer for the after-school events, and the need to get people to fill these positions so the events held. So just kind of maybe up in the ante a little bit to try to get people to hold all these events we want for our students. We talked about the 4th through 8th intramural programs at the elementary school. 4th and 5th grade groups, and also then a 6th through 8th grade group, 1 day a week for athletics, and then 1 day for STEM or science. I want to start after the holiday break and run through warmer weather till like the interest kind of dwindles. To get pizza once a month, they'll run for an hour after school each time. Mrs. Koch had talked about getting the Europe trip for 2024 approved. There are already 36 students going on the 2023 trip, which is this spring. So just putting out the 2024 trip on for approval so they can start pulling kids in. It seems to really have picked back up post-COVID now that we're back in session and able to take it again. We had continued discussion about the common 6 to 12 schedule. Definitely some changes maybe to the lunches, adding an advisory period, still working out the positives, pitfalls, things. Hopeful to maybe start a schedule that looks like that in September. A lot of things to work through until then. We did also talk about, actually just came up sort of, we started talking about STEM, and what's available currently for the students. Are we increasing that? Can we increase it? That really seems to be the way a lot of schools are going. Curriculums are being developed in that manner. Definitely lets kids look at learning in a different capacity. Trying to put that out there and see what creative uses we could have for staff or those opportunities for our students.
Discussion or questions on curriculum?
somewhere we asked, I don't remember where, whether it was in instructional council, whether it was in an open board meeting, to see what the schedule was gonna look like for a pre-K to 12. Have we made any progress with that yet?
Yeah, we do. We actually have a skeleton, I'll call it a skeleton schedule, not really skeleton, doesn't make sense, which I shared with B.A. leadership last week. I can send that out on Friday with my weekly
I'd like to
update.
see what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments pertaining to the curriculum?
With the schedule, you feel that students are still going to have a good chunk of time in each classroom, or is it just paring everything down?
Yeah, the minutes were relatively similar. I can't give you the exact number. When I send that to you on Friday, I will. There's definitely some lost time, but not as much as we anticipated. So instead of the average student in either 5 or 6, in the high school specifically, 5 or 6 56-minute periods, you're now going to 8 40-minute periods. So you're pretty close to the time being met. We are also adjusting passing time a little bit, maybe cutting back on some of the passing time so that there's actually more time in class. And the other thing that we started to, as an administrative team, we started talking about some of the potential pitfalls. We know from previous experiences, we would still let the elementary students out 10 minutes earlier than the high school students so that they're clear before the buses have to go out. We know that was always a big issue. And second, we're going to really take a look at common time in the halls. So we're on a 6 to 12 schedule. Some parents in the past have been upset if their 6th grader is walking through the high school when the 12th graders are at the same time. So we're going to do some small tweaks like that. One thing I do, Mr. Tice, I learned my lessons well. So the answer to that question is no. It will not affect the busing schedule.
Anything else for curriculum? All right, finance, we just met an hour ago. Laura, do you want to quickly, just because you were taking the notes?
So I had asked to see what our activity and club membership looked like. It was something that we had looked at in the beginning of the school year, or when all of us have crossed into our positions. My personal concern was, did we have enough students to have this overabundance of clubs versus how much is actually going out financially? So we had that given to us. We talked about 3rd Street and whether or not that would be something that would be going up for sale. And I believe that we agreed that that would be piggybacking on the special in January.
Yeah, on the night, January 11th, I believe, that we have our committee of the whole. It's a much larger discussion than just finance, so we're going to talk about it much more extensively then, along with fields and other facility issues. But we did agree as a finance committee to put a small amount of money to an appraisal. We're at least going to get information at this point, a solid appraisal on the building, okay? But as far as, anything else we'll talk about together on the 11th.
When the town did their reappraisal, did the school get an appraisal or no?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, we just got that, I know as a homeowner, I just got that mail this week, so you
Yeah, I
would have
did too.
gotten, you would have gotten it.
Okay. I just wondered if we had that for the buildings.
That was basically it.
Mhm. Spends a lot of time talking about that. Any other questions, discussions about finance? Okay, motion to go into executive session for personnel.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion made to go into executive session. Personnel committee updates. Any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential will be made public as soon as practicable. Minutes of the executive session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. The board will reconvene a public session at the conclusion of the closed session in approximately 15 minutes or so. We're going to try to be ready to go for 7 o'clock. Okay.
I'm gonna leave everything.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's right.
All right, we good, Eric? All right, the New Jersey Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with provisions of this act, the Belvidere Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted with the Star Ledger and Express Times and submitted to the town clerk of the town of Belvidere on January 16, 2022. The meeting will be live streamed at www.belvideresd.org.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The mission statement of the Belvidere School District is to celebrate our past and empower our future while focusing on the four cornerstones of our district: tradition, excellence, academics, and community. We strive to build confidence and promote collaboration. We encourage an equal partnership with our students and staff as well as community members. We empower everyone to develop the best versions of themselves. The Belvidere School District is committed to shaping students into global citizens who take initiative for their success and contribute to the continued excellence of the district. Our students are leaders in the decision-making process of their education and will be prepared to excel in a 21st century society. Roll call.
Mr. Ackerman?
Here.
Mr. Blum?
Here.
Mrs. Costantino? Dr. Zuppeth?
Here.
Mrs. Duckworth?
Here.
Mrs. Kennedy?
Here.
Mrs. Scott?
Here.
Mrs. Soroka?
Here.
Mrs. Stefan?
Here.
Mr. Ty?
Here.
Mrs. Weidlich?
Here.
Mr. Scott?
Here.
Public participation. Yes? Public participation? Oh, I just wanted to make sure you weren't. Okay. Seeing none, any correspondence?
No.
Superintendent's report?
All right, thank you. I have a few things just to mention tonight. Since the last time we met, there's been a couple of really great school events. I think the last time we met, that Friday night, was our version of A Christmas Carol. I don't know if anybody got a chance to come see A Christmas Carol, but it was outstanding. Probably one of the better versions of A Christmas Carol I've seen in a long time. Elijah Cook was Ebenezer Scrooge and just did an awesome job. So I just wanted to comment on that. Mrs. Poirier and her crew did an awesome job. Our Christmas concerts just finished up last week. I did not get to the middle school, elementary school Christmas extravaganza. I know we had to move it inside due to weather, but Mr. Karabinas gave it glowing reviews and said how outstanding it was. I can attest to how outstanding the choir concert was. That was, I think, the 1st of December. Mr. Conti just does an outstanding job. The students that we have up there singing, the talent was amazing. We had one young lady who was basically singing opera, and boy, it was almost breathtaking, quite frankly. So kudos to him. And then Mr. Zetterstrom had his instrumental concert last Wednesday. And again, we had a quick staff meeting today. I said it was probably the best one I've seen in years from our band. They just did an outstanding job. So kudos to all of them. We did have, last Friday, we had 2 assemblies. We had one where the whole school got to see little briefer versions of the concert. And then on Friday afternoon, we also had the 7th and 8th graders from the cluster districts come and see the concert, which I think went over really well. I heard some kids talking about it in harmony when I was there yesterday. So outstanding job, and thanks for having those kids. I do want to thank Mrs. Constantino. She's not here, for her 3 years of service on the board. She did an outstanding job. Many great contributions. We may or may not be saying goodbye to Mrs. Soroka tonight, too, as our white representative. She's also, in her short time here, excellent contributions, so thank you for serving us. I know there's some questions about the open seat that exists. We did advertise. We received no applications, so we will re-advertise again tomorrow and put the 22nd as our deadline so we can hopefully interview some folks at the reorganization meeting. A reminder that the reorganization meeting is on the 4th of January. So everybody, just to remind. And now let me just kind of mention a couple of things that are a little bit not normal, talking about what's going on in the state of New Jersey as far as education. The governor just put together a task force to try to figure out how to get more teachers into the profession, since there's a huge deficit right now. Interestingly enough, with the task force, there is only one superintendent who's on the task force. So David Adderholt, who's from West Windsor, Plainsboro, is the representative. So I thought that was interesting that they weren't looking to have more superintendent input. I think there's a NJAA rep and then school boards rep and a few other folks. So it was kind of an interesting mix of people. I mentioned in executive, but it's worth mentioning now. The Somerville School District is, I believe they've already passed a contract that has a starting salary of $70,000. I'd be curious to see how they adjusted out the rest of their contract, but we know that there's a huge teacher shortage, so some districts are taking that level of path just to try to get more teachers into the profession. So I'd be curious to see what that contract looks like and how that goes over, and how the people who had been making less than $70,000 for a lot of years there get any level of compensation. But those are two big things that are coming. Teacher retention has been a major issue over the last couple of years, especially post-COVID. So we'll see where that takes place. And I did want to mention, when you look at our personnel, I want to make sure everybody understands that Mr. Coyle is actually teaching 2 classes for us until January 6th. Mr. Coyle, I would say, with all respect, is a little bit crazy to be teaching all 8 periods every day. So, but thank you for filling in. We did not have a leave of absence replacement for Mr. Schreffler, so we are filling in with our own teachers covering the majority of our classes. So thanks to not just Mr. Coyle, but Mr. Hoyt and Mr. Demarest as well for picking those up. And lastly, just want to say happy holidays to everyone. Sometimes I forget things. I forget we actually have next Friday off, half day Thursday. So great schedule. So everybody enjoy the time off, and hope everybody has a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
All right. Policy. Motion to approve policy items numbers 1 and 2.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Noes? Abstentions? All right, moving to personnel. Motion to approve personnel items number 3 to 8A. There was an addendum A.
So moved.
Discussion? Questions? I know Heather mentioned the athletic event staffing rates we discussed in curriculum.
How do these stack up, these rates, against other schools? Better, worse, the same?
That's Brad kind of gave us the Bartow kind of looked at other districts.
Okay. More than this, or more than what we've been doing? Okay. Okay.
Discussion, questions, personnel? Roll.
Mr. Ackerman? Mr. Blum?
Yes.
Dr. Zeppeth?
Yes.
Mrs. Duckworth?
Yes.
Mrs. Kennedy? Mrs. Scott?
Yes.
Mrs. Soroka?
Yes.
Mrs. Steppen?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Mrs. Weidlich?
Yes.
And Mr. Scott?
Yes.
You didn't. Okay, just wanted to make sure.
We don't have a name.
Okay. All right, so we are moving to education items, but doing not numbers 9 to 13, but number 13, we do not yet have a representative. And that's because no one volunteered, or?
We actually do have one student who wants to volunteer. The student's on the swim team. And
Yes.
They meet on Wednesday nights.
Yes.
They have their meets on Wednesday nights. So we'll probably have one person fill in starting in January, and then a regular representative once the swim season is over.
Okay. All right, so we're taking number 13 off the
Yes.
agenda? Okay, any discussion, questions? Did I miss one?
No, I was just checking something, checking something off dramatically. But thank you.
Anything else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Noes? Abstentions? Okay. My business items. Motion to approve business items numbers 14 to 18.
Motion.
Second.
discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Noes? Abstentions? All right, continuing business. Just want to remind everybody, January 11th, 6:30 is our full board discussion on facilities, which I mentioned earlier. I had a note about feasibility study, but we have no update.
No
I
update.
found out in the finance committee. And where are we? Mary Ann had asked, I think, about the sports numbers,
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
right? Didn't you
Yeah.
ask in the last meeting about what numbers on each team to decide maybe which direction we
Right.
wanted to
May-
go facilities
And
wise?
over like the last 5 years, so we could see if it's a dwindling sport or an upcoming sport, to try to better determine where to put the money.
I'll have that information ahead of the January 11th meeting.
Continuing business. Okay, new business. I just have a question. It has to do with school lunch. I know that everybody, all districts are back to paying for school lunch. I get that. I know that we have Pay School Central and, parents put that money on the accounts. And if I'm talking not free and reduced, I know free and reduced, we're feeding kids. If, say, a parent, myself, forgets every once in a while to put, I didn't realize the money runs out, the children do not get fed.
They should be getting fed no matter what. If there's an issue, they should be getting fed, period.
I thought so, but I'm just, this has been an ongoing conversation in my house, and I didn't really believe my kids, but I've heard it from quite a few different people. And I think that maybe because we were free for so long, that people that are in those positions are really vigilant about making sure that, everybody is paying, and I totally get it. But I'm pretty good about putting money in that account, and I happened to forget today, and my son happened to have a few dollars on him to buy lunch, but I just thought that was a little ridiculous. Like, we can't even get a reminder.
Yeah, we'll look into that. I believe actually it's in board policy that a student will get a lunch every day no matter
Yeah,
what.
peanut butter and jelly cheese sandwich
yeah,
or something.
so,
like
Something.
that.
we'll-
They get lunch.
Yeah, we'll follow
I
up
mean,
on
that's our
that.
policy.
Well, did not happen.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We would get like an IOU, I'm assuming, right? Like, would you and Ms. McKinney just mind just maybe reiterating that with the cafeteria staff so we don't have to call every time? Thank you. Any other new business?
Yes, Mr. Dos Santos here has some
For
new
public
business.
1 second, I want to make sure, is
Oh.
there any new
Okay.
business before? 1 second, I promise. No one has anything else? All right, come on up. Public participation.
How much time do I have?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay, let me make this quick. So, addressing your lunch issue problem.
Can I just ask your name and what grade you're in?
My name is Pedro Ezequiel dos Santos, and I am a sophomore at the wonderful school of Belvidere. Okay,
you.
so I'm here to pitch you guys the idea of the future business owners of America. Now, what are the 3 main core structures of a successful nation? That's right, education, farmers, and business owners. Since the year 1970, small business ownership has taken a 50% loss in participation. Among other factors, it is becoming increasingly harder for the average Joe or Joessa to open their own business. My club seeks to open that door to many Belvidereans and Hopians and Harmonians. So, it'd be very nice if you approved it. My advisor is Mrs. Adamczyk, Jana Adamczyk, and I would be taking questions right now if you guys have any.
So, yes. So this is a club to introduce kids to the nuances of running their own business.
Yes, we will be selling various things in the cafeteria.
Oh, so you'd have your own business, and you'd be able to, each of you'd be able to see how that works.
Yes.
You'd all be like co-owners
And tweak
of
with
that.
it. Tweak with it.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
What kind of items would you be?
I've been told by the wonderful Miss McKinney that we wouldn't exactly be able to sell chocolate all year round because some other people will be selling the wonderful chocolates of Gertrude Hawk Chocolate trademark. So we would usually most of the year be selling our own craft items and other DIY items, and also other candies such as Sam's Club, candy packs, and other stuff.
So let me just jump in. I can personally attest to Pedro's ability to sell things on Cedar Saturday. I think he actually followed me around. I bought a couple of hot dogs and a couple of burgers and a couple of cookies. So it's a very simple process. So you need to meet with Dr. McKinney, and you can pitch it to her, and then we will run it through our curriculum committee.
I did that.
And then we will approve it as a board. So it's a pretty simple process. Sounds like you've pretty much done most of the legwork already.
I'd like to inform you, Your Honor, I've already met with Miss McKinney and done the meeting. And she said yes, if Miss Adamczyk said yes, and she said yes. And so now I'm kind of waiting on your guys' bidding.
Got it. So we will put on our next curriculum committee agenda,
I was just going to say
and then we'll have it up on the next
And-
January board meeting.
So I got
And I request if we can just have something in writing as well from you, from Mrs. Adamczyk, about exactly how often you plan on meeting, how.
Oh, it's all in my document.
I'm sure you have
I
it
can
all
share
worked out, but just if we could see it in paper, we can discuss it at curriculum, and we can put it on our next agenda.
So I gotta be here January 11th.
As a club that wants to be involved in starting a new business, a small business
Yes.
plan might be nice to see.
Well, we'll see what he's got for paperwork. I think this is a good idea. It's going to be an asset to our school.
We'll definitely make sure you're on the curriculum agenda on the curriculum committee. And get it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, Pedro.
Any other public participation? Oh, go ahead.
I like your Christmas tie.
That was terrific, by the way. Right?
Yes,
Very good.
absolutely.
That's what kind of kids we have here.
I know that. I know that. And that's one of the things I want to say. I'd like to thank Mr. Conti. He's had his choral group out. They were out last week at the tree lighting downtown. They did a terrific job. He also had them out at Heritage Days, and they helped in the opening ceremonies. And we really appreciate that. And we welcome them, and they make the event so much better. So thank you very much. The other thing I wanted to tell you, at the council meeting the other night, we were told that the project on Monunkeechunk for the 200-odd homes that were going in is officially dead. And so that won't happen. The property's been changing hands. It is zoned industrial, so I don't know yet what exactly will be done with it. There'll be more talk, and I'll have to go through it. But from your point of view, there won't be 200 families and 5,000 kids coming into school next year. That's it, and I hope you all have a great holiday. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other public participation? All right, we were supposed to interview board candidates for our open seat, but unless Mr. Roth is leaving town council, we don't have a candidate, right? Nobody's back there anywhere. And you may want to consider joining student council so that you can be a representative
You
here.
have to be 18, I believe. Is that correct?
Okay? Thank you. Any other public participation? All right, no interview, executive session. Motion to go into executive session.
That's only for the interview, so we don't need that.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
that was only-
That's right.
yeah.
It's only for the, so there's no HIB, there's nothing else on the agenda. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.